And I just was curious about really what led you to these particular themes, like really going to the body, you know, as a site of desire, also as a site of generational trauma, and how you also incorporate. So that's kind of like question one, why the body, right? But then you do this cool thing of having, you know, odes and elegies, right? You have also, as I said, generational trauma, but also like magical realism. So we're encountering a kind of expansiveness around the body and girlhood and womanhood. And so I just wanted to also ask how you made those choices as well.
Yeah. So most of the subject matter in this book, up until the writing of this book, were like fit under the category of things I was not allowed to write about. Because, you know, so much of how I had been, I don't know, like trained and socialized was not to call any attention to my body. And I kind of was socialized with the understanding that the only way for my girl body to be safe in the world was for it to be invisible, because the second it was under observation, it was in danger. And so, you know, the January children is just all smoke and mirrors to be like, look over there, I'm just a set of eyes and I'm your disembodied speaker, but look over there at these other people. And I was ready to spend the rest of my poetry writing life being like, look over there, I'm just the camera, you know? And I then, I don't know how to kind of trace like the chronology of this, but it was maybe sometime after the January children had come out, and all of a sudden I was having just a very difficult time on the internet, and I wasn't even doing anything. I like was not even a particularly like spicy or innovative or interesting internet presence. I just was existing on the internet as most people of my generation tend to do. And would just be getting the most horrible, disgusting, rancid DMs, usually from men. And I was like, okay, so this thing that I was taught, that if I would just be like the quietest, least offensive, purest, best behaved, most invisible version of myself, then no one would ever hate me and no one would ever wish to do me harm. Like, turns out that's not true. So if anyway, no matter what I do, the fact of my existing makes some people hate me and wish to do me harm, then I might as well do whatever it is I want to do. The idea of this being some kind of purity Olympics is fake and it's made up. And so I was like, for these bums, I'm gonna not write poems about my body, so some rando won't be like, how dare you, you know, be immodest and put a poem in a body. I'm like, get out of my inbox. We are strangers to each other. And so I was like, I'm making these huge decisions about my life and my work.
Right.
Based on the imagined opinion of men I literally don't know personally. How annoying, how frustrating. And so a lot of these poems were written at first out of anger, anger, which I think was kind of the, you know, if we're thinking about Russian nesting dolls, like the big doll is anger, and inside that doll is grief, is mourning. Because I just was in mourning for all of the years of my life that I wasted trying to just like fit myself and contort myself into this idea of an acceptable woman, an acceptable Muslim woman, an acceptable Black woman, an acceptable Sudanese woman. That doesn't exist. There's no such thing. It's a made up, it is an idea that is made up, and it's made up by men. So why waste my time in that way when I could just write the poems that I want to write? And you know, the thing about the poems in this book, they're not even that spicy. They're not even that controversial. So I was like, this is what I was trying to withhold and censor
The whole time,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because at first I was like, I'm gonna write some controversial poems. Like, they're really not doing what I thought they were gonna do. But I think that goes to show how insidious it was, and how much I was like, I need to silence even something that might be considered or misread as being inappropriate or immodest or whatever. And it's like, enough is enough, you know what I mean? And I think it helped to have this container, this idea of the girls that never die, because that's often what's used as the governing tactic to, make the femme body fall in line and stay small, and whatever is the threat of death, the fear of death. And so I was like, okay, if in this world the girls don't die, what could happen, you know?
Right.
And so it was just a really helpful and I guess healing imagining to get to do, to be like, okay, what if they can't kill me? What would I do? What would I write about, you know? And
did you feel freer?
Oh yeah, I loved it. I had a nice time. I mean, okay, yes and no.
Okay.
Because a lot of these poems, I wrote them quietly by myself for years, the latter half of that being during the pandemic. And so I was like, I feel free, I love it. I published it, and then the book came out, and it was kind of right when everything reopened, and so I was reading those poems out loud for the first time, and then I was like, what did I do? This is my actual business that I'm reading to these strangers. But at the time, when it was just like me at the desk on my computer, I was like, freedom, finally, without thinking about the long-term commitments I was making
in the world.
Yeah.
It will be in the world.